morning, YouTube. So this is the desk project that we have been talking about for the last couple weeks. So what the goal is for today is to take my crosscut sled and to cut the two shelves and the rest of the desktop and the other components and cut them into smaller parts because the panels are, well, obviously huge and unmanageable. So I got to cut everything down to 42 1/8 for the big parts, and then what's left over, I need to cut them into their smaller 12-inch parts and remaining components. So with that said, let's get to it. So most of my parts are already cut at 42 1/8. So I just need to cut this board down to those measurements so I have more material for my components. What I'm going to do is I'm going to line it up with the inside edge of my crosscut sled and cut it to its final length. So with that said, let's get to it. So now what I'm doing is I'm going to set up the table saw to cut my shelf pieces, which are going to be about 10 inches wide. So I'm going to set it up from the inside of the blade to the fence to 10 inches exactly. And then I'll just sand it down. I don't have to worry about joining it because, again, it's going to be a free-floating shelf. That's it. So I'll lock that down. And there's our set measurement. The other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go through my 42-inch pieces. I'm just going to double check, make sure that they're all the same length. But also I'm going to try to get the ones with the worst defects, because they're going to have books on top of them, and use those for my shelf and save my highest quality pieces for my desktop. So with that said, let's get to it. So let's get to it. So I'm going to set up the saw now to 4/16 so that the skirts, so the bottom part of the drawer is going to be about 4 inches all the way around. So now I'm going to take my shelf pieces and I'm going to pocket hole the bottoms so that I can screw them in their free-floating spots in the customer spot. So with that said, I'm going to do about 5 pocket holes per side on my pocket hole machine. So I just pocket hole my 2 shelf pieces, so they're done. All I have to do now is pre-sand them up to 220 and then start applying oil finish. So these are done for the entire project. So I'm going to put those off to the side. So now I'm going to work on my desktop. And what I have to do is I have to add an extra piece on to this panel here to come out to the 21 7/8 in the plans. The one thing I'm also going to account for too is both the desktop and the cutoff piece have to get jointed, so I'm going to add that number into my cuts and obviously my jointing. The other thing too is I want to do the I/O technique, so I want one face facing inward and one face facing outward so that just in case of my jointer's out of alignment, I get a perfect edge as I glue it up. So with that said, let's get to it. So 7/8 in a decimal point is 0.875 and 5/16 is 0.3125. What that reason why I have that is 21.875 is the distance that I want, and what I have is 19.3125. Right. Subtract that and I get 2.5625. All right. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take 5625, go to math, frac, and that gives me 9/16. So I need to add 2 and 9/16 of material onto the board itself. Now, just for reference too, my jointer takes 1/32 of an inch off, or 0.03125. My jointer takes off 1/32 of an inch. So I need to convert 9/16 to 30 seconds. So I take 32, divide by 16. So I find out what the multiplier is. I take the denominator of 9/16, so 16 times 2 equals 32. 9 times 2 is 18. So 18 30 seconds is what I need to cut my board to, but I need to also add in the jointer on both sides. So I have to add 2 30 seconds to 18 30 seconds, because again, I need to joint this board and also the corresponding board. So both of them are going to subtract a 30 seconds. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take 18 30 seconds, or just take 18 plus 2 equals 20. So 20 over 32 equals 0.625, or if we want to figure it out in fraction form. So I need to cut this to, again, I need to cut my scrap piece to my add-on piece to 2 5/8, joint it, and then joint my desktop piece to get 21 7/8. So with that said, let's get to it. To the distance from the inside of my blade to my rip fence to 2 5/8. But I'm also going to add a 16th for the blade. So what I noticed is the board I was just about to glue on is a 16th too large. So again, the desktop itself is not the same size as this piece, so I need to plane it down. So with that said, let's break out the planer. to spread the glue along the joint. Make sure I got consistent coverage all the way across. Alright. Line up my ends. I'm going to start with this side first. Knock it in. And I'm putting downward pressure as I'm clamping so that I don't have any lift on my pieces. So this is how I normally do tabletop when I don't have a planer that's big enough. So I'll pre-plane everything down as close as I can to the final thickness, and then I'll just have to clamp it and glue it as close as I can, and then sand down the wood so it's perfect. So, last one. Alright, and that's done. So, those are the preliminary parts for the desk. We're going to go into detail next time more on how we're going to attach the skirts to the desktop and the drawer construction itself. So, with that said, I hope everyone's staying safe. And I hope you guys have a great weekend. Bye!